Hi everyone, welcome to Otakusphere sort of weekly, episode 31. It's becoming closer to weekly. I think we can start, making that acknowledgement. I'm Karen, main person at Otakusphere thus far, and with me tonight are Lifesong
Hello.
and LB.
Hello.
I feel weird saying main person at Otakusphere. That's not right. I should say I'm just like head editor or whatever. You guys are like writers, because just saying I'm the head person makes it sound like I'm the only one who's important, and that's just stupid. That's not what I meant. Strike that from your memories. Okay. So we're going to do one thing we haven't done for a couple of weeks, and just have a general what's everybody been up to sort of segment, because I, for one, have actually been doing something, so I wanted to talk about it. But LB, let's go with you first, because you watched a show that I am a big fan of, so I want to see what you thought of it. You watched Ping Pong recently?
I haven't watched all of it. I'm watching it because I'm going to be relaunching a podcast that I used to do, and this one got recommended to me. So I've been watching it one episode per day because I discovered after the first episode that this is not a show that you want to try and marathon. But yeah, I won't get into it too deeply because I want to save it for my own show. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. It's definitely something that I probably should have watched sooner.
Yeah, with that director, Yuasa, with his anime, I feel like when you just see a couple of screenshots of it, like, it doesn't look like something you want to watch. It's like, this doesn't look that appealing. But then once you actually get into it and you're like, oh, cool, I see what he's doing. And then you want to see more of his stuff.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is with this series is that I remember when it first premiered and I was turned off by the art style, so I didn't watch it at the time. And now it's like, okay, yeah, I totally get what's going on with this, and I probably should have watched it sooner, like I said.
Yeah, I watched it as it was coming out about, I want to say 4 years ago, 5 years ago maybe. But in any case, one thing I said to myself after watching Ping Pong is that, okay, I really like this. I've got to see more of this director's anime. And as of yet, I have not done that. I don't know if have I seen anything else Yuasa's directed? I know he did Tatami Galaxy, which has been on my to-do list for like ever since it came out practically, so like almost 10 years. But I still have not watched Tatami Galaxy. So I've got to watch more of that good Yuasa stuff, because he just it's like, yeah, his style is not immediately like appealing when you first see it, but once you kind of get over that hurdle, then it's just very, very interesting. Just the way he composes shots and the way he uses the real estate of the screen, it's just really compelling. I mean, the show happens to be about ping pong, but I think he could probably make an interesting show about just about any topic. His style. So yeah, so basically I'm admitting I'm a big fan of someone for whom I've seen one thing that they've done. So I should do something about that. How far are you into ping pong?
I'm like 6 or 7 episodes.
And is that show 12 or 24? I don't remember.
12 as far as I'm aware.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so it won't take you long to finish that one. Okay,
yeah, probably by the time we record next week, I'll be done with it. Or if we record next week, I should say.
Who knows? It's a mystery. Anything else you've been watching? I imagine Ping Pong's probably been taking out most of your non-seasonal anime time.
Yeah, pretty much. It's been Ping Pong and seasonal anime. That's all I've been able to really get through this week.
Yeah. I haven't been watching any other anime other than seasonals lately, but I have been reading more light novels. I just read volumes 1 and 2 of Lazy Dungeon Master. And
your husband recommended that to me.
Yeah, I really like that series, although what's interesting about it is there are some kind of dark elements to it, but they're kind of out of focus. Like, like bad stuff is happening, but you just like kind of off camera, but you never really see it. Or you're never really, it's always kind of happening to third parties in the background. So it's kind of like, wow, if they made an adaptation of this anime and they did it from a certain perspective, it could be like freaking like Goblin Slayer levels of dark. But when you're reading it, it doesn't seem that way at all. So it's just sort of interesting how that works. And I just really like the light novels approach to things, where it's obviously very inspired by video games. So instead of just kind of glossing over stuff like how many resources what kind of resources the protagonists have. You know, like exactly what they have on hand. You know how many points they can spend to get what they need. You know how many, their point total and all. It's like it seems like it would be really tedious, kind of meaningless information. But when you've been playing like RPGs, especially for years, it's like this kind of stuff is like addictive to you. So I just find it's really interesting how it's like a literary tradition that it's like borrowing from games more than literature. And you'd think from the perspective of someone who likes books, this would be like the most terrible thing. But no, actually, it's just like a completely different way of looking at it. And I just think that's really cool. So I'm continuing to enjoy my explorations in light novels. I'm upset that there aren't any more vending machine books. I think there's one more that hasn't been translated, volume 3, but then the series stops. Because so far that's been my favorite. But I just have to find out what products the vending machine is going to stock next. But yeah, I think now that I've read like maybe like 5 or 6 light novels back to back, maybe I'll switch it up and read something else that isn't a light novel for a little while. But I'm definitely having fun with them. Glad that I have this huge treasure trove of them available because my husband went nuts and bought like 50 of them. If he didn't have that freaking like 2-hour commute every day, it would be like, what the hell are you doing? But considering he has that commute, I can't really yell at him for spending money on train time, entertainment.
Do you guys buy physical books or do you buy them digitally?
Digitally now. It was physical for a long time, but we have so many freaking books in this house. It's ridiculous. We don't have room for all the books we have, so.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, some like graphic novels, I will sometimes buy physical copies because I never really got into reading graphic novels digitally. But for just regular novels, yeah, it's all digital at this point. Otherwise, our house will explode in just reams of paper. Okay, so that's what I've been up to. Lifesong, you've been doing anything else otaku centric?
I've been pretty boring this week, actually.
Let me guess, you've been playing video games, haven't you?
Yes. It's almost like you can tell when you see what I'm doing on Discord.
Instead of just, doing endless otaku shtick, you're like playing video games to relax from work. And how dare you?
Well, I will say the video game I've been spending a lot of my time on is a rhythm game called Osu, like this week in particular. And it was actually like a Sword Art Online beat map that I was working on. So it kind of counts.
Wait, what? Was this a Japanese game or?
No, it's like a crowd. I'm not sure what to even call it. It's like sort of like an open source game. Fans make things and upload to a central location. Everyone downloads the beat maps. There's like thousands and thousands of them.
Okay, this is like Sword Art Online, like World Seed sort of stuff going on.
Yeah, I guess you could say something like that. I mean, it's all kinds of music. It's everything from Western music to anime stuff.
That's cool. I mean, I guess it's not like you're playing freaking like Call of Duty or something, because then we just look down on you.
Yeah, nothing quite that bad.
Not really. I wouldn't actually look down on you. I just like the idea of the hypocrisy of being like, how dare you play a video game you enjoy if it doesn't fit within these very specific parameters. Anyway. Okay, so hopefully we'll continue to do some more interesting stuff that is not just watching seasonal anime like zombies. But we are happy zombies, so we're going to go into our seasonal anime. Starting with Sword Art Online, episode 5. I just watched this an hour or two ago, and I was thinking the whole time, like, yay, Lifesong's going to be so happy. This is what he wanted. Getting information on what everybody's doing outside of Underworld. And I thought this was a very satisfying episode. It was nice to see Asuna take a major role and do something. And this also goes to show kind of like why Kirito and Asuna are together. Like, yeah, they're both really cute and they fell in love during Sword Art Online, but they also have that compatibility that they're both kind of like, they will not just sort of leave something alone. They both have this need to investigate. So that's another reason why they make a good couple. So I always like seeing that side of both of them. So I was just, I know I was a little spoiled. I knew that what I knew going into the season was that Kirito was going to get stabbed, he was going to be poisoned, and he was going to be in a coma or something to that effect. But that was the extent of what I knew. So I didn't know that he was going to be held in this secret facility or anything like that. So I think I'm now spoiler free for the rest of the season of Sword Art Online. But so yeah, so I was spoiled for that, so I was not hugely shocked or anything like that. But I just thought the way it was done was very interesting with everybody pitching in and investigating. LB, what did you think of this episode?
I really liked this episode up until the last about 5 minutes or so.
Mhm.
I agree with you on bringing Asuna in and having everyone investigate what's going on. I think that was really great. It broke things up a little bit. My issue is at the very end of the episode when Asuna sneaks onto the facility with the doctor and then pulls off her wig and sunglasses, like, haha, it was me all along. And it's just like, for this top level security that they had to go through multiple scans and checks for explosives, and they were fooled because a week earlier Yui went in and switched a photo.
I would agree with you if it were not for the fact that Yui is basically supernatural breaks the internet creature who was completely loyal to Asuna. So, like, if they just had like a human hacker helping out or something, maybe I'd agree with that. But the fact that Yui was making that happen made it totally plausible for me.
That's totally how real hacking works. It's something that stupid when it works. When you get in through security, it's nothing really shocking about that.
A life song is just like, yeah, security really is that bad. So.
It really is.
Also, when did you guys figure out that it was Asuna?
Oh, instantly.
I didn't figure it out instantly, but when they told her, okay, take off your sunglasses so we can do the scan, that's when I was like, oh, now it's Asuna.
I saw the sunglasses and I was like, oh look, Asuna, she's got blonde hair.
Okay, so I think it occurred to me for a second when I saw them in the helicopter, like, oh, is that Asuna? But I was like, I don't know, I'll play it by ear. But then when they said, okay, you got to take off your sunglasses, and I thought of Asuna taking off her sunglasses in the op, and like, oh, that's definitely Asuna, no two ways about it. So,
yeah.
Let's see, LB. No, wait,
yeah.
LB. I asked you already. You told me about your feelings about this episode. Lifesong.
Yes.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. I like the implications of. Actually, I like Yui's part in it quite a bit. I liked how they were wearing those. I'm going to forget the term now. Those headsets that let them see Yui in the real world.
Yeah, and I like the fact that ordinal scale is actually important in continuity.
Important. And it was just like, oh, nice. They're actually doing something with that. All these characters are wearing their ordinal scale headsets. It was great.
Yeah, because so often with anime movies, like the anime movie just takes place in like another dimension because it's like it's never referred to in the source on the show or anything ever again. In this case, the fact that ordinal, like if you didn't see ordinal scale, you wouldn't be completely lost coming into the season. But it's definitely important to what's going on.
Yeah, one of the exciting things about Ordinal Scale was listening to like the staff talk about how it was like this important bridge piece, and it's like, okay, well, I'll genuinely believe that when I see something that bridges where we were with Sword Art to where we're going, and it's like, okay, well, there's a piece that's definitely a piece.
Yeah, the fact that Yui can kind of be like part of their team outside of just Alfheim Online because now they have the AR device and that sort of thing. Yeah, that's a pretty big change. I kind of feel like Asuna is maybe cheating a little bit because she happens to have this AI that's extremely complex and competent and entirely devoted to her, and it's like, well, that's lucky. If you happen to have one of those.
On the one hand, that it's incredibly convenient. On the other hand, I like just thinking about the implications of AI, which is something they're kind of digging into. Like, it's something that the real world is going to be dealing with in the future. I don't know that it'll ever really be like Yui or what Sword Art Online presents, but it's just an interesting concept. It's neat to see any kind of science fiction pick it up and go somewhere with it.
Yeah. So let's see. So now we know where Kirito is. He's on some giant float in the ocean, and I'm kind of wondering. This is probably a silly thing to wonder, but I wonder if he gets better, if he'd have any license to sue Wrath for what they're doing to him, or did he sign something when he was their employee that was like, "Oh, and by the way, if I ever end up in a coma, you totally have the right to use my consciousness this way," because
I
that
mean,
seems like something that company would do.
he's also dealing with. We also just learned that. Well, I think you might be misunderstanding something. Wrath is a cover for the Japanese government, the
Oh,
Japanese
really?
military. In fact, yeah. If you didn't notice who that guy was, you know that guy from the internal. I forget his name now. The Internal Ministry of Affairs. It's been talking to Kirito since he got out of.
Right, right.
Yeah, he's a lieutenant colonel.
Oh, okay. Now that you say that, that makes perfect sense. But I was just focusing on
Yeah,
other things in the
that was a
episode.
pretty big twist in the episode. He is not who he said he was this whole time. He's a colonel in the Japanese military.
Yeah. So this it's not just a private corporation messing around here. This is a serious government business.
So they might be able to try and sue him.
Yeah, but he's probably not going to have much luck suing the government. It's a moot point because Kirito wouldn't do that anyway. But I just found the idea a bit funny.
Yeah, I wonder if Kirito is even like, he's in this coma. Is it, and they had this probably based off other things we know about what they've done with like the soul transfer technology. I wonder if they had like some copy of his soul and they're actually like putting the two back together to fix him or something. I don't know. I'm thinking out loud right now. I have no idea where they're going with it. But
well, what I was wondering is, like, obviously there's big ethical problem here that Kirito was in a coma. He could not consent to what they're doing to him. But on the other hand, maybe it's going to turn out that by keeping his consciousness active in Underworld, that's keeping his brain from kind of atrophying from misuse. So it's actually keeping him alive in a way. So
yeah, keeping him alive, or even acting to rehabilitate, or even if the part of his brain that was damaged physically, if they've got those brain signals perfectly copied, if they could put them back in, and I don't know. I don't know. It's just interesting things to think about. I don't know what they're doing with it or where they're going with it.
They could go in a lot of interesting directions with this. One thing that kind of go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Additional question that just came into my mind. I'm curious now. That attack from
You just got.
Yeah, we just lost you for a second there.
Oh, sorry.
You're super quiet now.
Hold on.
Get the cat away from the microphone.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Yeah, you're just like barely audible. I don't know what's going on with that. Come back, LB.
I'm not sure.
You're still too quiet. I will mention one other thing that I thought was just neat to see again. I've had this thought with Sword Art Online in the past, and it's interesting just to stop and think about. At least I think it's interesting to stop and think about. You've got these people who were trapped in Aincrad, who really were forced to figure out how to survive. And how was it? 2 years? 3? I want to say 2 years. They were stuck in Aincrad. Maybe 3 years.
It was at least 2 years. It may have been closer to 3.
I think it was 2 years. And they get out and they're in the real world. And when it comes to like solving problems and looking for answers, none of them are sitting around waiting for someone else to do that for them. Let's go get our guild and let's go do our thing. And it's like, yeah, it's just interesting to stop and see that dynamic. And think about it.
And well, it's interesting too because it's kind of like people who have been through really difficult situations often develop those kind of coping skills that people who have been luckier don't have. But then it's like you kind of get into sort of dangerous moral territory because it's like, wait, is it okay to do terrible things to people because then it makes them stronger? It's like, wait, that doesn't seem quite right.
That's definitely a good moral question, and that is kind of how humans work. So
yeah. I've actually been thinking about this question in another context, but if I talk about it now, it's going to take us way off topic. But let's just say in that question in general, like exposing people to suffering, and then they get stronger, but they don't always get stronger. Sometimes they get weaker because of various reasons. Like, it's just a very interesting, ethically fraught sort of area to think of.
I will say that from one perspective of offering the opportunity, where it's not forced on someone, where it is something they can, like a challenge they can overcome on their own. I think that's really where that healthy middle ground ends up being at, versus Aincrad, where they're all stuck there against their will.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's good that there is a happy middle ground.
I mean, I don't know if it's a perfect middle ground, but it's a thing you could at least say, hey, that's an option.
Yeah. LB, are you having any luck?
I don't know. Can you hear me now?
No.
Oh man, what are we gonna do? Because if this was the old style podcast, I'd just be like, take as long as you want, and I'll just edit it back in whenever you fix it. But we kind of can't do that right now.
You could just try dropping off and rejoining.
Yeah, why don't you try that? The joys of technology.
Yeah. Yui didn't like LB underestimating her abilities, and she's just watch this.
That makes as much sense as anything else.
Right.
She's like, I'll show you, Uncle LB. Meanwhile, someone else calls attention to this, and that Yui calls Kirito Papa and Asuna Mama, but for some reason in the subtitles they do Mommy and Daddy.
Oh, yeah. I honestly barely read the subtitles when English loanwords get used. I'm just not. I don't notice.
Like, it's really not important. I mean, I don't think this is the kind of thing where people should like go to the mat and be like, this is an inaccurate translation. It just seems so arbitrary.
I know, I understand, and it's awkward when you read it and you see it that way, and it's like it makes you wonder why the localization team prefers doing that. But hey, I don't have them here to ask them, so
yeah. So LB, how's it going?
I don't know.
Super quiet.
Yeah, we can barely hear you again. Oh man. Okay. Did you like turn down a volume setting somewhere?
I don't think so. I just fiddled with all my...
Like, we can tell you're making sound, but we can't actually hear what you're saying.
Yeah, we can't like make out words.
Okay, well, hold on. Go ahead and keep talking.
Well, I hate to do this, but why don't you just disconnect for now? Because if we can't hear you, we can't hear you. So, oh, there he goes. I'm sorry. I feel like an ogre. All right. Well, maybe he'll figure it out on his end and be able to rejoin. I don't know. So for the time being, I guess we should just move on.
Okay, we could talk about Uzumade. LB's not watching that one.
That's true. Okay, Uzumade episode 5. I thought this was like a totally okay episode that didn't really do anything to advance things much for me, which is fine, but I just don't really have much to say about it. What about you?
Oh, well, I don't really have that much to say about it either. I'm still finding the show funny, and I think that's about it. I guess that was a bad choice to fill time.
Yeah, we both think it's totally okay. Moving on.
Yeah, you gotta have somebody offended by Uzumade to have things to talk about with Uzumade.
I need to invite someone who's offended. That'll go well.
That'll go from like a 5-second conversation
to like a 3-hour conversation.
It could, yeah.
I'll put out like an ad in the newspaper. Are you offended by Uzumade? Come and join our podcast.
That shouldn't be too hard. It might be hard to find someone willing to do it, but
I mean, the only thing that was kind of memorable about this episode of Uzumade in particular was the fact that there was that guy Uncle Low Angle who kept trying to get the girl.
Yeah, I was like, I did a double take at the beginning of the episode. I was like, wait, really? And then they have the joke at the end of the episode where Misha is all, you get arrested too, dang it.
Yeah, but for a moment I was thinking, wait, is it possible that Uncle Low Angle is actually Tsubame? But no, she wouldn't be.
She would just ask in person.
She would just be straight up front and be like, I bet you're wearing beautiful panties. May I see them?
Yeah.
She wouldn't be all under the table and.
No, she wouldn't. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's move on to Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, and I found this episode interesting in a completely different way than the previous episodes because the way what's the current girl's name? Koito-san, something like that.
I forget her name.
Well, anyway, she is like freaking out because she wants to stay popular and she has to do everything her little peer group does, and it's kind of like I was never popular enough to experience anything like that, and now I'm kind of wondering what that's like because if you remember the movie the Breakfast Club, like the really popular girl,
Oh, yeah.
in that,
You name one of the very few Western movies I've actually seen.
yeah, right. Like I remember that girl being like, "Well, you don't understand. You don't know what it's like to be friends with all the people I'm friends with. You don't understand the pressure." And part of me is as like Miss Unpopular Girl watching that movie was like, "Oh, cry me a river," It must be so hard to be popular.
I can't relate at all. I was the kid that was like, I wanted to be unpopular so I could get out of doing things. That was me. So yeah, when you flip the figure out, I don't want to lose my friends. Like, why not?
Yeah,
obviously they're not that cool in the first place. Why are you worried about this?
yeah. So it's like on the one hand, excuse me. I mean, I guess I only have so much sympathy for that point of view, but for some reason, watching this episode, I was kind of wondering, what that would be like if like your whole self-worth is invested in this small group of people, being your friends, and like you're like, oh no, what if I miss like one day of chat and then I'm behind and then there's like a rift between me and everybody else, and like it just then it's like it started to speak to me as someone who deals with anxiety. It's like, oh, I can't really understand dealing with popularity because I've never had to do that. But I can understand the anxiety that might come with that. So I just found it interesting on that level. One thing,
I'll admit I spent most of it wishing that my senpai were back on the stage instead of her.
yeah, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable with what they're doing here because obviously they're planting the seed that maybe Sakura's relationship with Koito-san could come between him and Mai, and
I don't think it will. I think it's just going to make us more and more sympathetic for Koito-san. I think that's really all that's going to happen here. He's like more. He doesn't seem like he's going in that direction, even though she does.
no, I think for him, she's like a stand-in for his little sister. Like he feels those kind of
he's treating her like that. Yes.
yeah, he feels those kind of protective feelings. Clearly, she's starting to probably fall for him a little bit, but I don't think those feelings are going to be reciprocated. But just the fact that they're even hinting that that might be a problem, like when Mai calls him after getting back from the filming and he picks up the phone to call her and then puts it down like he's maybe uncomfortable speaking to her right then. I didn't like that. I was like, no, I don't want any problems in their relationship.
Well, you got to have some problems, If you don't have any problems, there's no drama, and you have other problems.
Yeah,
Like, get
I
bored.
still really like their conversations though. What, Wilson?
Oh yeah, me too.
Oh, down there. Oh, sorry. Wilson came in looking for toddler art supplies. So
All right.
they've now been found. Um, let's see, and I'm not saying this in a bad way, but this episode seemed really long to me. I actually paused the episode with a couple of minutes left. It was like, was this a double episode? It just seemed like a lot happened.
Yeah,
I guess
don't know. I guess I felt like it was long too because I was whining in the back of my head wanting more Mai and less Koito, but
wait, you were doing what?
you whining internally.
Where's Mai? I want to see
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, I was afraid that once they started focusing on another girl, I might start to lose interest in the show, but that's definitely not happening.
No,
So
it's not happening for me either. Despite complaining about wanting to see more of Mai, I'm complaining because I'm liking the show, not because I'm not liking it. Big difference.
yeah. Oh, question. Do you think that maybe the lab coffee making girl, Futaba, do you think she's the one who actually made time repeat?
I've been wondering about that, but I don't know why she would have. It seems like there's something going on with her, and it might be that or it could be that there's an additional thing going on. She might be the next girl in the next arc. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's possible that they're just setting up the seeds for her to be the next person with adolescent syndrome problems. But it's kind of like I get this feeling that maybe the Laplace's demon person is actually her, and Koito-san has nothing to do with it.
Yeah, the
But
interesting thing is just that Koito-san does remember everything. That's the one thing right now that makes us think that it's her.
yeah, okay.
It could be that there's another element we're going to be introduced to in like next episode, and we're just not sure of that element yet. So
Yeah, and also it's just that I don't know what happened to Futaba-san on that day that would have made the Groundhog Day situation stop. So yeah,
yeah,
so
we don't know enough to think it's Futaba yet,
yeah, okay.
even though there's some hints that it might be.
So it's like I kind of hope it turns out to be her just because I'll feel smart for guessing it, but I have no other reason for thinking that should be the case. Okay, moving on to that time I got reincarnated in as a slime, episode 5. I was glad that this episode kind of resolved the we need to get dwarven craftsman thing so they can now move on to something else. And I did appreciate the fact that by putting Rimuru in legal trouble, he can't just fight his way out of everything so easily. But on the other hand, I kind of feel like this isn't really what the show should be focusing on so much. I don't know, like we've got these, like if you watch the opening, there's like a lot of these really cool looking characters who we haven't even met yet. And we're still stuck in like the elf hostess bar dealing with like dwarven politics and stuff.
I understand what they're doing though. Like from a world building perspective, I think I understand what they're doing at least, and in building Rimuru up to become more and more important to the world he's a part of. So it's like on the one hand, yeah, I didn't initially think about the episode too much. Like I read your review on it and I was like, oh yeah, now I'm kind of annoyed with it. But beforehand, it was just like I just kind of accepted it as yeah, we're building toward interesting things.
Yeah. I did like the fact that after Rimuru made that healing potion in the previous episode, like that action actually had consequences. Like people on the show were smart enough to actually realize, wait, who is this slime who could just make this incredibly effective healing potion out of nothing?
98% efficient healing potion. Like the dwarves are like, this is our thing, and he did it better. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that they figured out that something's going on with Rimuru, like without necessarily having to see him turn into a dragon or something. Like they figured it out from more subtle things he's doing. So that's cool. I don't really have much else to say about the show, probably because I'm writing about it every week, so I kind of get it out of my system that way.
Yeah, I would just say that I'm enjoying it. I mean, like there's a lot, like I can find a lot of little things I can nitpick at when I really stop and think about it, and then I stop after that and realized I'm enjoying this. Why am I nitpicking it so much? And, you know, it's like I definitely want to go somewhere better though, like somewhere. I want to see it get to the place that all this world building is building up, which is all these characters in the opening and him turning into something that looks more human and beating the Japanese-looking heroine. You know, all of those things.
Yeah. I had something to say, and it was just oh so brilliant, and I completely forgot. All right, well, I have to let it go because I don't have time. I can't. I shouldn't just sit here for 5 minutes thinking. That's not compelling podcasting. But I'll let any.
I was going to say, I've got one last thing I can say is that I did look it up to see what it's planned for. Like, you know, I was thinking if this is a 12-episode show, we're going to get nowhere. I looked it up. It's actually planned for 24 episodes. So that made me feel a lot better about the pacing.
That makes more sense because if it was 12 episodes and we still haven't met like most of the cast, that's kind of a problem.
We established the things that most of these types of anime have done by episode 2. Yeah, at 6, no, that would be bad.
Yeah. And the thing I was going to say, is that this anime does seem to be very popular right now because, like, you know, when people get to Otakusphere through Google searches, I can see what they search for, and just for the past like 2 weeks, like practically all the searches have been for this anime. So that's interesting. Okay, let's move on to Run with the Wind, episode 5. Did you get a chance to catch up on this yet?
I'm not caught up on it yet. I'm sorry.
It's really good.
Tell me how awesome it is.
It's really pretty awesome.
It's hard to have a conversation with someone who hasn't seen the episode. I'm sorry.
I'm trying to think of what I could tell you that will entice you to catch up on it, but will not spoil things. Well, one thing it's dealing with that I find really interesting is talking about the nature of competitive sports and the nature of running more generally. Because one of the things I start talking about in this episode is, these kids are kind of being forced into being the track and field team. Some of them have some talent in it, some of them really don't seem to, and it's a struggle for them. And it's like, well, should these people who aren't good runners really be getting involved in this? And it becomes, well, do you all have to be super talented to be on a team? Like, are only like the most talented people around allowed to even try to compete? What kind of system is that? And it's like, when it comes to competitive sports, it's like, yeah, it doesn't really seem fair that only like the absolute most talented should be on a team, especially on like the school level, not talking about like Olympic level or something, but on like a school level.
It's because it's at the school level that's a good question, I think.
Yeah, like they're at college level, so it's starting to get a little bit hazy, but at least at high school level, you'd think, well,
are they college level in this?
They are, yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is, running is kind of different from other competitive sports in a way, in that you need to be on a team to play soccer. You need to be on a team to play basketball.
Yeah, running, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't running primarily like a solo sport?
Yeah, you don't need anything to run except a pair of shoes, or, I mean, that's a bit of an oversimplification. It's nice to have water, nice to have a place to run, but
well, I'm sure having plenty of experience with running is important.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, a lot of the things you have that whole argument. Well, should only the really greatest runners be able to run? But the thing is, if the guys who aren't, really set up for a competitive, for the competitive scene, if they want to run, they can run as much as they want, just not necessarily in this competition. So I think the show is kind of doing some interesting things with like, well, what is the purpose of these sporting events below like the Olympic level? Because once you're dealing with like, world class athletes who do this professionally in the Olympics and everything, then it's just whoever is the best, and talent and results are what matter. But when you're dealing with it at a lower level, well, what is the point of this? Is it just to be like practice for the big leagues, or is there some element of having people gain benefits from the sport, even if they're not going to do it for the rest of their life? So
yeah, that's a good point.
So I just find that aspect of it really interesting. Like, it's interesting enough just as a character drama because the characters are really well defined, but it's adding more things into the mix that make me even more interested to see where it's going.
Excellent. Well, I will try to catch up before our next podcast.
Okay. Speaking of things to catch up on, are you submitting yourself to Between Sea and Sky?
No.
Okay. We're up to episode 5 with that. I will say this episode was probably the least dumb of all the ones that have come before it. In that
is that the high bar it has the ability to reach?
Yeah, that is the high bar it has reached so far, that someone had a reasonable problem that wasn't incredibly stupid, and then found a way to deal with that problem that, while I could nitpick it, did make a modicum of sense. So this is the most sense the show has made since the beginning. The show does seem to.
It almost sounds like a disappointment.
Yeah, it was. It was like, this show. I don't have much to complain about with this episode. What the hell? Although this show does seem to be dependent on absolutely everybody being completely incompetent, because there's an accident in the training facility where, if like the maintenance team was remotely competent, that never should have happened. So it's
clearly we just need to throw morality to the wind and throw them all in Aincrad for a couple of years, let them come back out and be like, all right, better show.
Yeah, then they'd be able to set priorities and deal with problem solving. Really, everybody just needs to be stuck in a death game for a few years, That really improves their character, is what we're saying. Okay, so until you're caught up, we're not going to talk more about Between Sea and Sky. And if you don't catch up, I won't hold it against you.
Did I say I was going to catch up? Because, it's such a miserable show.
You said you might catch up so we could suffer together, but okay, I'm not gonna hold you to that.
I'll try again for next week. I wasn't good at doing that this week.
Okay, moving on to Ms. Vampire Who Lives in the Neighborhood, episode 5. The show has kind of reached this equilibrium where it's always totally fine. I never mind watching it, but I don't really have anything new to say about it. You?
Yeah, there's. I mean, it's the same thing pretty much every week. I would never be able to marathon this show. Like I enjoy it every week, but I'm enjoying basically the same thing every week.
Yeah, I'm trying to even think if there's anything about this episode in particular that even stood out, and I'm just drawing a blank. I mean, it is kind of funny that Ellie has supposedly been asleep for 100 years, so she doesn't understand modern technology. But
It's funny, except that I don't know. I meet people on a regular basis that are just like that. And that's funny.
who need tech support very, very badly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to As Miss Beelzebub Likes It. I think episode. I'm not sure if they're up to episode 4 or 5. I know I'm one episode behind because.
Well, you'll have to sell me on this one too because I haven't started it yet.
I'm not going to be able to do a very good job on selling you on it because it's extremely cute and fluffy. Like I kind of feel like remember Urahara from last year, the show that was made by was made by like a largely female team, and it was very light and fluffy and used a lot of pastel colors.
Oh, the really bad one?
It was bad, yeah. I kind of feel like the look of As Miss Beelzebub Likes It is kind of like the look the Urahara people were going for and didn't achieve.
Oh, so it's like that, but good.
Kind of, but it's not very compelling. Like it's about demons in hell, but it's like the most like sanitized version of hell you could possibly imagine.
Is that like, I mean, where does it compare on a compelling scale to Miss Vampire Who Lives in My Neighborhood? Is it above or is it below?
I'd say it's a little below that. In the second episode, they introduced one character who I thought was really funny. So I thought that episode was really funny for the sake of that one character. But he's just one character in the ensemble. So now that he's been introduced, he's not in it much.
Yeah.
So ever since then, it's kind of been like felt like a little bit of a chore to watch these episodes. So I don't know if I'm gonna catch up on it. Like, I mean, it looks really pretty. Like it's like the visual equivalent of just eating a giant piece of marshmallow fluff or something. But
So it sounds like I don't need to catch up with that one too much of a high priority, at least.
no, not really. Unless you have like some sort of obsession with fluffy things and you really want to see fluffy things in action. I don't know.
I'm doing good with Miss Vampire Who Lives in My Neighborhood right now. That's giving me my weekly dose.
Yeah. Excuse me. I'm sorry, listeners. I swear I actually got sleep.
There's your real verdict on the anime.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, moving on to My Sister, My Writer, episode 4. You're not keeping up with this, are you?
I haven't been. I am in a sense that I've actually been reading about it every week, so I know a little bit of what's going on.
Yeah, well, for some, I guess just because I just can't help but watch shows about writers, I'm still watching it. But now the main reason I'm watching it more than the writer thing is to keep tabs on the animation and see what's going on. Because for episodes 2 and 3, it seemed like the animation director was like, I don't know, somebody's little brother or something who had never directed animation before, but they were like, oh my god, this episode is like totally overdue. We need to bring in people.
I've seen GIFs and I've seen pictures, and it's like, oh wow, that looks bad.
Yeah, so it seemed like the animation was just like being done by like the C team or something for episodes for a couple episodes. Then this most recent episode, it seemed like the episode was better. Not that I mean, it seemed like the animation was better. Not that it was great, but just there really weren't that many shots where you would just immediately see, oh, that's out of proportion.
So they had 2 animators working on it instead of 1.
Yeah, instead of like the dude's little brother, like they had like the actual key animator working on it. Maybe I don't know. But now that I've said that, I have like no memory of anything that happened in this episode. Really, the show is just pretty bad, and I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. But are
they doing anything with the Emoto angle that's new or interesting, or is it as bad as it seemed like it would be in the first episode?
It's pretty much exactly what you expect based on the first episode. The thing that I'm curious about isn't really something about this particular show. It's just about how we got to the point where yep, another verdict on the show. How we got to the point where these light novel shows are invariably little sister shows. Well, how did that happen?
Here's the thing that gets me with the whole Emoto angle, and that's the whole Emoto angle is supposed to be this whole forbidden, taboo topic that they want to throw at you. And the problem with it in anime is that that taboo angle is dead. I mean,
Oh yeah.
they beat it to death years ago. It's nobody cares. I mean, like new anime fans see it and they freak out a little bit, and then they look at the history and they're like, oh, this is just a normal everyday thing. It's not weird when you're watching anime for this to be a thing.
Yeah, actually, that segues into something else because I was having a discussion with some other people recently about whether or not anime normalizes certain behaviors, like normalizes sexual assault and things like that. And I was thinking about it, and the one thing I can say for sure is that it normalizes it within anime.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I agree. I would say that when you're like, if you think of anime as being a location, a place where you go to, and when you're there, that is definitely normal. It's just perfectly normal thing to happen.
yeah, like to use another example, like the one girl will go up to another girl and just grab her boobs, which actually happens in Miss Vampire now that I think about it.
Yeah.
When that happens a lot in anime, and probably when I first started watching anime, I found that kind of off-putting, but now I like barely even notice. The thing is, I don't think that normalizes my view on people doing that in real life. If someone actually did that to someone in real life, I'd be like, whoa, what the hell are you doing? That's messed
I
up.
mean, yeah, and I will say that from experience, like anime conventions and stuff, like they have had trouble with that kind of thing in the past, and then they started telling people, you have to act like you're in real life when you're here, and not just act like you're in an anime. And for the most part, it's gone away.
Yeah.
Or
I
you'll
mean,
see it, and it's always girls, and they're friends. They're showing off, and
basically it's consensual, so they can do
yes,
whatever they
they're
want.
acting like it's not, but it clearly is.
Yeah, so it's kind of like with the whole siscon thing. It's not that I think that anime is really normalizing brother sister sexual
No,
relationships. It's just it's a thing within anime. That's
yeah,
so.
and it's yeah.
I
I
mean,
do sometimes wonder if like I don't know if there's a nice way to put what is Japan's fascination with this, but
well, once again, sometimes I read things online, these random forums, and then I wish it wasn't just like a random message board because I wish I could assign credit to whoever said this. But I remember someone saying that now with the low birth rate in Japan, a lot of people don't have brothers and sisters. So kind of
yeah,
the idea of having an opposite sex sibling is kind of
I've heard
enticing to
yeah
people.
I've heard that before, and that makes a certain degree of sense. But then it's just like, but that doesn't make these anime interesting.
That's yeah. It's it's just sort of it's an explanation that I don't know. I think there's a lot going on with the little sister anime where I think a lot of little sister tropes are tropes that maybe guys would like to apply to women in general, but if you apply those tropes to just female characters in general, then it becomes like, oh, well, this is very old fashioned. This isn't how women are anymore. But it's like, oh, it's a little sister. Then it sort of becomes maybe more permissible
Yeah, I
I
wondered if
don't know.
that's part of it. It might just be that I don't care for that, and so it's hard for me to even think that way. So it's like
Yeah.
if you put he's like, sorry guys, if you want to hit me with this, you have to be a little less subtle because I'm not getting it.
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's probably a lot going on psychologically with the popularity of this little sister stuff, but I do not have the expertise to actually
Yeah,
analyze it. I just
I
think it's
will
probably
also say
complex.
I will also say that I think part of it is just a natural historic evolution where, like, I know that in light novels, or not light novels, in visual novels where this whole emoto thing first started,
Hmm.
like they were actually good stories. I've read a couple of them. Like, okay, I could see why this got popular. These stories are interesting. I don't necessarily like the general fetish or whatever, but it's the stories themselves. There are some compelling stories. Then you go and you look at anime, and you're like, okay, well they took the same concept, but it's not interesting anymore.
Yeah, and like usually in these Emoto shows, if there's anything interesting about it, it's the part that doesn't have to do with the little sister.
Yeah, usually it's somebody else that's interesting, not them.
Like with the show A Sister is All You Need. That was a Little Sister show, and there were a lot of interesting things about that show, but they were shows that the parts of the show that were interesting really had very little to do with the Little Sister element.
And that was correct me if I'm wrong. That was a story written by the same light novel light novel writer that did
Orima?
No, was it Orimo?
No, wait, I'm wrong. You're right.
Bokutomo or whatever. I can think of the character's name. There's like a dozen names for it, and I don't remember what the official name was. I think it was Haganai.
Yeah, which I haven't seen. I know what it is, and that's about all I got.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, that makes me think that story also had the Emoto, and she was almost completely unimportant, and it wasn't really trying to focus on her, but it was like his storytelling is good. I like the style.
Yeah. Okay, so we managed to talk for a long time about a show that isn't good that you're not even watching.
Yeah, we always did.
The next show I had on my list is Skullface Bookseller, but when we're recording is kind of limiting us because this show airs on Sundays. So if we were recording Sunday night like usual, there would have been a new episode, but it's not out yet. So we don't have a new Skullface Bookseller episode. Bloom Into You, I wanted to catch up on, but High Dive was broken for me last night and was broken for me this morning.
Oh, I've actually been having trouble with High Dive too, just randomly, and I've asked around, and it seems like other people are accessing it fine when it breaks for me, so I don't really know what's up with that.
Maybe it's a regional thing. Maybe it's just us East Coast peeps. Maybe it's like, maybe they're like, hey, you liberal elites, you can't watch High Dive. Maybe it's all political.
I would say that I am actually caught up on it right now, though, and I like it a lot. I think it's doing some interesting things with romance that you don't really see in anime and manga.
I have mixed feelings on it. I saw up to episode 4. I could not see 5 because that's when High Dive broke on me. But I have mixed feelings on it. I do like the fact that the main character kind of isn't really sure how she feels, and it's not really clear if is she possibly asexual, is she a lesbian, but she just isn't as into the other girl as the other girl is into her. Is she, the fact that she doesn't really know what's up and she's still figuring that stuff out is interesting and unusual because I can't really remember having seen that before, where the main character is just trying to figure out like, what is my sexuality even, instead.
Yeah, and I think even beyond that, I think there's obviously a degree to which she's attracted to her a little bit, but she doesn't have those "I'm in love with you" feelings that she's like, because what she's really looking for is, I think, even more than just being a little bit attracted, is being, completely head over heels in love with someone. And she's like, it's not working for me. I don't understand. Where's my on switch? I'm trying to find it and I don't know where it's at.
Yeah, she wants sparks. She wants that sort of thing. But I haven't, since I'm not caught up, I may be missing something, but I get the impression that it may not even be so much that she's attracted to, what's the other girl, Nanami? It may not even be so much that she's attracted to her, so much as she just likes the idea of it. Like, oh, if we kiss, that's a romantic thing.
She likes the affection. She likes the aspects of it, like the attention, without really being in love with her. And she's trying to put those two together. I'm not entirely convinced they're going to actually end up together. If it wasn't named Bloom Into You, I would be doubting it more, but they probably will. I mean, there probably will be a romance that works out for them in some sense, but I'm not 100% convinced it will.
Yeah, I wonder though, if it were to go the route where they don't end up together because what's her name? The main character, just isn't that into her. Would it even, is it even really fair to call this a Yuri show? It's like a half Yuri show.
I mean, I would still call it a Yuri show because we're very much dealing with, even if it's a one-sided lesbian romance, there's Yuri there.
Yeah, and also I think the other student council girl is jealous, so got that love triangle going on.
She's jealous because her friend is being taken away, or if she's jealous because she is also into her. I guess we'll see as that goes on.
Based on the show itself, I would think she's just jealous that her friend is, getting close to someone else. But the way things are going on in the opening with the flowers and them all holding the flowers in front of their faces and whatnot, I'm pretty sure that student council girl is involved in this romance.
Probably. What do you think of Baki? I remember LB. I wanted to ask him, but he's not on. I wanted to ask him what his thoughts, because I know he said something about him last
He
week.
said Maki like creeped him out.
Yeah.
I can see that, but I find his character interesting. Like someone who basically wants to be an NPC.
Yeah, I mean, it's like he's like, oh, I'm surrounded by people that are totally into romance, and rather than having any real interest in him myself, I just think it's amusing, it's entertaining, and I'm like, well, I can't really argue with him since I'm watching this every week.
Yeah, it's almost like he's like kind of like. I mean, maybe I'm missing something in episode 5 that goes against this, but it's almost like he's a benign sociopath. Like he's not. He doesn't.
I mean, I think sociopath is an extreme exaggeration, but yeah, it's that kind of he doesn't have that I'm going to keep out of this because I relate. He doesn't relate with them at all, obviously. He just thinks they're interesting, and he's pretty low key and cool about it.
Yeah, well, the fact that he kind of sees them all as characters in a play for his amusement is why I use the word sociopath. I realize that's kind of a histrionic word to use, because you think of sociopaths as people who run around murdering other people, and whereas I don't.
It's one thing. I mean, with a sociopath, it would be the sociopath would never realize they're thinking that way. Somebody who can make that analogy is therefore not a sociopath. So that's really that's an important distinction, I think. It's like, okay, yes, he's making that analogy. He is capable of thinking that way. It doesn't. I mean, and obviously he prefers thinking that way. He likes that analogy. That's pretty obvious.
Yeah. I mean, I can see the, well, he's creepy argument, in the sense that if I knew somebody like that in real life, I would probably find them creepy. But just as a character on the show, I find him very interesting. I want to see where he's going.
Yeah, I think it's worth pointing out that if you do him in real life, he actually doesn't say any of the things that we would find creepy. They're all inside his head.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't even know.
Yeah. So if High Dive ever actually works again, I'm looking forward to catching up on Bloom Into You and see what he's doing.
Yeah.
So get at it, High Dive. I'm waiting for you. Okay, the next show I wrote down was Release the Spice, and I dropped the show after episode 3 or 4. This show kind of reminds me of, like, if I was writing a story about like high school girls being super spies, but I was like in middle school or something like that. This is the kind of story I would write. And it's like,
you're saying you weren't an amazing writer in middle school? Is that what you're saying?
No, I wasn't. Not at all. It's like I could see this kind of show. I like the first episode, and I could see the appeal of this kind of show, of these girls who are super spies and they can do these amazing acrobatic stunts and use weapons, and it's cool and everything like that. But if you're doing that kind of show, like, the point of it is to be fun and not to take it too seriously, because if you take it seriously, then you start thinking about how ridiculous it is on several
pushing
ways.
The drama a little too hard or something.
Yeah, but then what they start doing is, like, in episode 3, one of the missions they deal with is they deal with a brothel where these girls have been sex trafficked and they've been, like, drugged and forced to work as prostitutes. And it's like, whoa, this subject matter is way too heavy for a show that's about girls who get trained in 1 month to be super spies and then, like, do backflips and throw throwing stars all over the place. Like, it just doesn't fit the tone.
I will say that I have seen things do that kind of a. I'm not watching the show. I haven't even seen episode 1 yet. But I will say, like, that's the same kind of thing that, like, Madoka tries to get away with, and Madoka is incredibly successful at it. And there's been dozens of other anime since then that have tried to create that sort of dissonance where you got the cute girls doing this thing and you don't take it all that seriously, and then all of a sudden you have a reason to take it very seriously.
Well, that's an interesting question, why it works so well in Madoka and it doesn't work at all for me here.
It's probably the difference between good storytelling and bad storytelling. Just it sounds like it just isn't done right. I haven't seen it though, so.
Yeah, it's just because, like, the things I could complain about with the show, like, would seem very nitpicky. Like the fact that the main character girl goes from being completely untrained to, in 1 month, being a member of this super spy organization, and she can fight on a master level with a big sword and
Yeah,
do
see
all
that
these other
that,
things.
that kind of thing gives you the question of why ever show her being weak in the first place? Why not just start her out as super powerful if you're not going to make her becoming powerful interesting?
Yeah, and there's the fact that they clearly don't want to kill people. They're clearly against that. They like to
Yeah, see,
incapacitate
that's
people.
another thing. When you're going to go dark and edgy, you have to go all in. You can't go 90% in and then have it be like, yeah, but nobody's ever going to actually die or nothing bad is ever going to actually happen. It completely ruins that kind of storytelling.
Yeah, it bothers me that they obviously don't want to kill anyone, that killing anyone will be an absolute last resort for them, yet all the weapons they specialize in are lethal weapons. Like one girl uses a sniper rifle, one girl uses a katana, but so when she needs to take someone out, she's like, "Oh, don't worry, I hit that person with the blunt end of my sword." And then they think for a moment maybe she's dead anyway. It's like, "Oh no, wait, she's alive. You're okay." And it's like,
You know,
"Well, wait, if your whole point is you're not supposed to be killing people, why is your weapon a katana? That makes no sense."
yeah, so that's something actually that reminds me of a Magical Girl Raising Project, where they kind of have that moment where they're questioning their abilities a little bit, and that's around the point where they all start dying and getting murdered and all that. But
Yeah, that's why.
it's not like the question lives for that long. But anyway, I don't know where I was going with that. That was a good example of not worrying about being too dark. It might have been.
But the thing is, like, you could say, like, all right, this is a show about, teenage super spies doing these silly things and catching crooks and helping the police. Like, why are you even nitpicking on this level? But the thing is, if I'm supposed to just be having fun with it and not nitpicking on this level, then why are you giving me stories about sex trafficking? Why are you giving me this stuff that's telling me I'm supposed to be taking this seriously? I just feel like it's just not
Yeah, there's
gelling.
there's there's bait and switch, and then there's trying to sugarcoat something and putting sugar on it while without that actual switch mechanic, it doesn't work. You can't
Yeah,
just sugarcoat sex trafficking.
yeah, and it's like I appreciate the fact that the show is fast paced. Like you definitely can't accuse it of getting bogged down because, like in the last episode I saw, which I think was episode 3, they did like 3 or 4 missions in one episode. So it's like it's nice that it's not slow, but on the other hand, it's like because things happen so fast, nothing has any substance.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. Pacing can definitely be too fast, or they can introduce elements like what you were mentioning earlier with the girl who's all weak and then suddenly super strong. It's like you can do that in a story if you needed her to be weak in the beginning for some other purpose. But if there was no other purpose and you just made her super strong, that's actually still wasteful storytelling.
Yeah. So, actually, one of the main things I liked about Release the Spice in the first episode was the background music stood out to me. I thought that was really well done, but I've been listening for it, and maybe I've just been too distracted by not liking the show in general. But I haven't even been noticing the background music been being good in these last few episodes. So I don't know what's up with that. Okay, that was actually the last show I had on my list. Are there other shows you're watching you want to mention?
Um, what all have we mentioned so far? I'm still watching Goblin Slayer.
If I went and watched that again, would I regret it? I probably would, right?
I don't know. I mean, like the episode 1 was definitely the worst of it. The later episodes, the Goblin Slayer himself, he's a little on edge. He's not completely mentally healthy, and so there's an aspect that makes that a little uncomfortable. But like, it's not that bad. I don't think it's that bad. I realize my threshold is a lot higher than yours, so it's like I don't want to tell you wrongly, but I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, I think I have enough to watch that I can
Okay.
safely stay away from that for a little while. I still have not caught up on Gridman. I want to do that, but I want to be in the right mood when I watch that show.
Yeah, it is definitely that kind of a show where you have to be in the right mood for something. It actually has that this is hard to take seriously goofy aspect that then becomes serious, and it does the bait and switch well.
That's good. Let's see what else. There's 1 or 2 shows this season I don't think I've even tried. Like Radiant. That's the one where it's I think based on a French comic. I haven't even
Yeah,
tried that. I might
I
want to give
haven't
it a
touched
try.
that one yet. I still desperately need to go try out Iridoku, which everyone is telling me is amazing. I haven't started it yet.
But that is that streaming anywhere?
It is on Amazon Prime.
I should have guessed. Okay, I'll try to catch up on Iridoku because I've heard good things about it too, but I keep forgetting it exists because it's on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I know. That's been my problem too. I don't like I'll queue things up and I don't even open Amazon until I'm done with everything else. And if I'm not caught up on everything else, that means I never open Amazon. So
Yeah,
it was different a few seasons back when they had more anime, but they don't have much this season.
yeah.
Uh, I'll also say that Zombieland Saga, everyone is talking about Zombieland Saga, and it's like, well, I guess I need to go watch Zombieland Saga.
I thought, did you see the first episode of it or anything?
I haven't seen it yet. I have not seen it yet.
Okay, I mean, it does sound clever from what I've heard, but unless I don't know, unless someone else watched it and told me you totally won't be grossed out by this at all, I'm probably not going to watch it.
It looks too silly to be gross, like the screenshots I've seen and stuff. But I don't know yet.
We shall see.
I saw people comparing one of the episodes with one of the girls like having a rap battle, like comparing it to Eminem and stuff. I'm like, wait, really? Is that an appropriate? Is that an appropriate analogy, or is that wishful thinking? So I feel like I have to watch it now just to understand if the fandom is blowing it out of proportion or if it's actually that good.
Okay,
I don't even know if good is the right word, but if it's actually going the places people are acting like it's going.
Okay. So I guess we're done discussing seasonal anime for today.
One more.
Sure.
Index.
Oh, right.
I don't have
that
much.
exists.
I don't even have much to say about it, other than that it's still gloriously bad, and I enjoy every second of it.
Okay, I might catch up on it on some time since I did see the first 2 seasons, but I don't feel like I'm missing out at the moment. I just
With the last 2 episodes have been Accelerator and his guys are they're not his group. He's working with them. I can barely remember who most of them are though.
I just I don't like Accelerator, and I think I'm supposed to.
You're not supposed to like him. There's this one scene though. I don't know if I'm supposed to be laughing or not, but he's like beating the hell out of this other villain like brutally, and he is doing it, and he's explaining to him that his aesthetics as a villain are pissing him off. So he's basically killing him because he doesn't like how lame of a villain he is, and you're just like, okay, that's kind of dark, and I'm laughing hysterically at it. Okay, I don't know what to think of this.
Well, I think after they did the whole arc with Accelerator, with him having to kill the Misaka clones over and over again, I think after that you were supposed to start kind of warming up to him, but I never did. I was just like, you're still a douche. I don't like you.
I mean, he is a douche, but at the same time, it's like he's at least an understandable douche.
Yeah, he's not completely devoid of sympathy, I suppose.
He does take care of what's her name, Last Order.
Well, I think it's silly that she's called Last Order. Makes it sound like Last Order. Makes it sound like she's going to be like this, like incredibly important person.
Listen, though, we're talking about a show that has 3 different rival gangs show up in the last couple episodes, and the name of those gangs are Member, Study, and Group.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Well, that is Index for me.
I don't think Last Order is that bad as far as naming goes in Index.
The fact that there's a group called Group.
Yeah, no, that's their name. Group. I think I've got them all right. It's Group, Study, and Member. And I don't even remember which ones are like, it was like a battle royale between the 3 of them this week and last week, and I don't even know which one of them is still around now.
Wow. Alrighty then. So I'm glad someone's keeping up on Index, so I can feel not too bad about missing it for now. I was just gonna say I might try to catch up on Little Witch Academia, the TV series, because at Anime NYC, the Trigger people are going to be there, and I actually still don't know if I'm going to get to interview them. That info hasn't come through yet.
All right. Well, good luck.
But even if I don't get interviews, I can still go to panels that they're on, and I've seen just about every Trigger thing at this point, except Little Witch Academia. So I thought maybe it would be a good idea to.
Yeah, I need to watch that too.
Bone up on my
promises
Trigger.
I'll have it done before next podcast, but.
Oh, I'll probably just be watching it the night before Anime NYC.
Just watch the whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll be like too tired at the convention to actually do something. I'll fall asleep during the Anime News Network panel. I'll have to be removed.
Don't do that. You'll actually join the group of other people that are sitting there in the back napping. It's like, this is an open room, right?
Yeah, that'll be our meetup plan for Anime NYC. Me and a couple of other people I know that are going. It's just like, no, we're not going to do lunch. We're not going to do dinner. We're not going to meet at a cosplay event. Just like, no, we're just going to go to the ANN panel, sit in the back, and fall asleep.
We say that. I have no idea how popular the ANM panel actually is. I've never actually been to one.
I don't either. I mean, I think I've been to cons where they've had the panel before, but I don't think I ever went to it. I don't remember. I need to actually really sit down with that schedule and like bang out what I definitely want to go to. I still haven't done that, but I think I'm going to do that on my own time and not subject the listeners to that. So
yeah.
So I think we're done for today. I'm sorry that LB had tech problems and couldn't continue, but just hopefully he'll be able to have that fixed, whatever that is, by next week. So good luck, LB.
Yep.
And good luck to all our listeners. Have a good week. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.